There is a moment in every seeker's life when the noise of effort becomes too loud, and the quiet truth beneath it begins to pulse like a reminder you can no longer ignore. You have tried the affirmations. You have tried discipline, motivation, even surrender. And still, something in you whispers that the real shift will not come from pushing harder, but from becoming someone you have not yet allowed yourself to be. This is where the journey turns inward. This is where we stop asking how to reach the goal and start asking how to become the identity that naturally walks toward it. Today, we explore what it truly means to adjust your energetic identity and manifest bold goals through applied spiritual neuroscience, not as a fantasy, but as a lived internal calibration. In this opening, I invite you to breathe slower for a moment, not for technique, but to feel that subtle pause between who you have been and who you are capable of becoming. If life has felt stagnant, if the universe has been quiet and you have questioned whether your prayers still reach anything beyond your chest, stay here. There is nothing wrong with you. The quiet is often where transformation gathers strength. We are not here to force abundance. We are here to align with it. As you watch this video, observe not only the thoughts that rise, but the sensations in your body. Notice where resistance lives and where hope flickers like a small flame returning to life. This is not about rushing to become extraordinary. It is about remembering that your essence has always been extraordinary and allowing your nervous system, your emotions, and your spirit to finally agree with that truth. Here, you are not trying to manifest a different life. You are returning to the frequency where that life already belongs to you. There are times when life feels like an echo, where each day mirrors the last and your spirit quietly realizes that routine has replaced intention. You wake with plans that feel sincere, yet by nightfall the energy has dissolved, replaced by a familiar heaviness or quiet resignation. It is not laziness, it is not lack of desire, it is the weight of an identity shaped by past experiences, old fears, and an inner pattern of survival that once protected you, but now limits your expansion. When we talk about adjusting your energetic identity, we are not speaking of wishful thinking or forcing confidence. We are speaking about the subtle transformation in the nervous system, the emotional field, and the subconscious narrative that determines what you believe you can embody. This chapter is not about dreaming bigger. It is about becoming the person who no longer feels foreign in the presence of the life they once only imagined. Sometimes the misalignment appears as exhaustion for no clear reason. You sit with your goals, and instead of excitement, there is a quiet tremor of doubt living beneath your ribs. The mind says you want greatness, but the body whispers you are not safe expanding too far. This contradiction is not a failure of discipline. It is the biological imprint of an old identity attempting to keep you within the boundaries it understands. That hesitation, that instinct to hold back right when it is time to step forward, is not weakness but memory. The nervous system remembers criticism, disappointment, or the fear of being seen and misunderstood. Until you acknowledge these echoes, they continue to write your choices before your conscious mind has a chance to intervene. To adjust your energetic identity, you first have to recognize that resistance is not your enemy. It is an invitation into deeper self-relationship. Rather than seeing transformation as a leap, imagine it as a realignment, a subtle recalibration of inner posture. Your thoughts are not separate from your energy. They live inside the same space as your breath, your heartbeat, and the tension held in your shoulders when you think about change. When the body believes you are in danger, even if that danger is simply the vulnerability of evolving into a new self, it contracts. Shoulders rise, breathing shortens, attention scatters. Dreams feel heavier, less possible, not because they are too large, but because your state is too small for them. A future self does not emerge from force, but from the quiet courage to sit inside the discomfort of growth, long enough for your nervous system to learn that expansion does not equal threat. Becoming aligned is not a moment of breakthrough, but a practice of daily remembrance. Consider how an artist prepares before touching the canvas. They do not rush. They sit in silence, feeling into what wishes to be expressed. You are asked to treat your becoming with the same reverence. Your identity begins to shift, not when you declare who you want to become, but when you create moments each day where your body feels what it is like to inhabit that future self, not imagining success as a distant reward, but inviting its emotional tone into the present moment. Calm determination, quiet certainty. the grounded rhythm of someone who trusts their path and their timing. When those feelings are rehearsed consistently, the subconscious begins rewriting its expectations, and your energetic field learns a new baseline. It is not enough to intellectually believe in your future. You must physically experience the frequency of it in the present. There will be days when the past returns with force, when old doubts rise and your mind questions whether true transformation is possible for you. Instead of resisting that moment, breathe with it. Meet the old identity with compassion, not frustration. You are not failing. You are integrating. Healing is not the absence of old emotions. It is the ability to remain awake and steady in their presence. Whisper inward, not with desperation but with patience. I am learning how to be different. Your spirit does not rush. Growth has no panic in its voice. The universe responds not to urgency, but to coherence. When your inner state carries the weight of presence rather than the tension of need, reality begins to reorganize around you in surprising ways. Synchronicities appear, conversations shift, you feel drawn to actions you once avoided. You do not chase opportunity. You become the person opportunity recognizes. In this ongoing transformation, there is a sacred invitation to slow down, to stop performing a future you do not yet feel, and instead build it from the inside out. Notice how you move in your environment. Notice the tone of your inner dialogue. Notice the moments you shrink your energy to match an old story. With each noticing, you reclaim power. You move from unconscious reaction into conscious creation. Identity is not a mask. It is a vibration sustained long enough to become natural. The person you are becoming does not demand arrival. They practice presence. Hand slowly, without drama or struggle, your outer world begins to reflect the inner landscape you have cultivated. This is the pathway where manifestation stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like truth unfolding. When mind, body, and spirit speak the same language, the universe listens as if you are finally speaking in your native tongue. There is a quiet point in your evolution where you begin to realize that the life you dream of is not waiting somewhere outside of you, but is instead encoded within a version of yourself you have not fully stepped into. This realization can feel unsettling at first, almost like standing at the threshold of a doorway you have knocked on for years, suddenly aware that the handle has always been under your hand. Expansion is rarely loud. It often begins as a subtle hum beneath the skin, a soft pulse of truth that tells you the way forward is not about proving something to the world, but about remembering who you were before doubt began shaping your edges. In this chapter, we continue this inner journey by exploring how your internal state sets the foundation for the reality you create, and how shifting your energetic identity becomes the most powerful form of manifestation you can ever practice. In certain seasons, you may feel suspended between worlds, no longer aligned with your old patterns, yet not fully grounded in who you are becoming. This liminal space can be disorienting. Your mind may whisper that you are stuck or falling behind, while your deeper self knows you are simply dissolving the identity built around survival, opening space for one anchored in expansion. When individuals feel trapped in cycles of stagnation or self-sabotage, it is rarely because they lack intelligence or drive. Instead, they are still loyal to familiar emotions, familiar beliefs, familiar energy. The nervous system clings to what it once used to protect you, and stepping into a greater life requires learning how to feel safe in unfamiliar levels of possibility. That is the essence of spiritual neuroscience, recognizing that the body and spirit are not separate, and that true transformation integrates both systems in harmony. Consider how often your mind has reached for bold dreams, while your body quietly braced for disappointment. Perhaps you have taken steps toward a new career, a new relationship, or a new creative vision, only to feel an inexplicable pull backward. It may show up as procrastination, a sudden wave of fatigue, a desire to retreat, or a voice that whispers that it is easier not to try. This is not failure. It is your old energetic identity expressing its fear that stepping forward will cost you safety, acceptance, or belonging. When you understand that resistance is simply an emotional imprint asking for reassurance, the path softens. Instead of forcing yourself forward, you learn to guide yourself. You become both the dreamer and the guardian of your own expansion, and this internal alliance, gentle yet consistent, is what rewires your reality. Every meaningful transformation begins with presence. Presence is not a technique or a performance. It is the willingness to inhabit the moment without running from yourself. When you breathe into your experience rather than rushing past it, something subtle shifts. Your internal world stops feeling like something to outrun and becomes a landscape you can navigate with grace. This is where manifestation deepens into embodiment. In this state, you are not chasing outcomes but aligning with a frequency that naturally attracts what previously felt distant. When your inner state becomes grounded, receptive, and coherent, external events begin syncing with your intentions in ways that feel almost orchestral. The world responds not because you shouted louder, but because your energetic presence finally matches the life you have been calling in. To live with a regulated and intentional inner state is to become someone whose energy speaks before their words do. Conversations change, opportunities gravitate, people respond to you differently. You notice moments of clarity that once felt rare now appearing as steady companions. And each time you choose presence over panic, patience over urgency, grounded confidence over anxious effort, you rewrite the internal code that shapes your path. In this space, manifestation is no longer an external chase, but an internal tuning process. You align first, then life aligns around you. This is not passivity, it is mastery. It is understanding that a calm, coherent nervous system is more powerful than force, and that your spirit thrives not in pressure, but in resonance. Of course, stepping into this version of yourself requires honesty. There will be days when doubt resurfaces, when old emotional patterns reappear, when the mind questions whether true change is possible. These moments are not signs that you are moving backward. They are invitations to practice the identity you are choosing, not the one you once defaulted to. When you meet these moments without shame, something profound occurs. You become capable of holding your old self with compassion while embodying your new one with quiet confidence. Expansion stops feeling like abandonment of who you were and becomes an honoring of who you are becoming. This is how spiritual maturity looks in practice, rooted, reflective, and quietly courageous. As you move through this chapter of your life, allow space for softness. Transformation is not a sprint, nor is it a performance. It is a remembering, a return, a gentle opening to the truth that your life expands in direct proportion to your capacity to be present with yourself. Each breath that steadies you, each moment of awareness that interrupts an old impulse, each quiet decision to remain aligned rather than reactive, builds the foundation of your new identity. And over time, what once felt like effort becomes natural. You find yourself moving differently, thinking differently, responding differently. Without forcing, without rushing, you have become the person your dreams have been waiting for. There comes a moment when you begin to sense that your evolution is no longer about learning more, acquiring more knowledge, or stacking more strategies. Instead, it becomes about releasing the layers that keep you from fully inhabiting the self you already know you are meant to be. In this chapter, we deepen the journey by exploring the emotional architecture of identity and how your nervous system, memory, and energy field collaborate to shape the limits of what you believe is possible. True transformation cannot occur in a mind that thinks one thing while a body remembers another. It is the reconciliation of these inner worlds that creates the internal coherence necessary to manifest bold goals with grace and inevitability rather than strain and uncertainty. At times you will notice that change does not fail because of lack of effort, but because the inner narrative tied to your identity has not yet shifted. You may hold powerful visions for your future, yet still feel a subtle tremor of hesitation when approaching opportunities or stepping into unfamiliar territory. This hesitation is not a reflection of inadequacy. It is a signal that an old emotional imprint is still governing your responses, quietly directing your actions from beneath conscious awareness. When the subconscious still identifies with survival, it resists expansion. It clings to what is known, even when what is known is no longer aligned with the life you are building. To evolve, you must allow the old identity to soften, not through force, but through recognition and compassionate release. The body stores chapters of your life long after the mind believes it has moved on. Every moment of doubt, every experience of being misunderstood, every time your authenticity felt too risky to reveal, lives in subtle echoes within the nervous system. Those echoes show up in the moments when you hesitate instead of advancing, when you shrink your expression to avoid judgment, or when you retreat from opportunities that feel both expansive and intimidating. Some call this fear. In truth, it is familiarity. The body believes it is protecting you by keeping you aligned with what it understands. Deep transformation means teaching the nervous system a new experience of safety. Safety in expansion, safety in visibility, safety in receiving more than you ever allowed yourself to consider possible. To adjust your energetic identity, you must first acknowledge that your future cannot grow from the soil of old emotional patterns. You cannot access the frequency of your highest self while habitually returning to the emotional vocabulary of limitation. This transition, however, is not about forcing positivity or suppressing discomfort. It is about developing the emotional capacity to remain present through the internal storms that arise when your old self begins to dissolve. The discomfort you feel in growth is not failure. It is the shedding of familiar tension, a recalibration of the emotional resonance you have carried for years. Each moment you breathe through uncertainty, rather than collapsing into it, marks the construction of an entirely new internal foundation. Identity transformation unfolds through repetition, presence, and emotional honesty. There will be days when the new version of you feels vivid and embodied, and others when the old identity resurfaces with surprising force. On those days, you are not regressing, you are integrating. The mind may interpret this as inconsistency, but in truth it is a sacred oscillation between what you were and what you are becoming. Real identity shifts are not linear. They breathe, expand, contract, and stabilize with time. When you begin to notice this rhythm without judging it, you gain power. You step out of self-criticism and into self-witnessing. And from that witness state, you can choose again without collapsing into doubt. Consider the people who inspire you, not because of accomplishment, but because their presence carries a quiet certainty. They radiate ease not because life spared them hardship, but because they learned how to regulate their inner world in the presence of challenge. Their identity is not reactive, it is anchored. This anchoring is available to you. It is not gifted, it is cultivated. Each time you embody calm in the face of uncertainty, each moment you choose alignment instead of urgency, you wire a new emotional signature into your reality. Over time, that signature becomes your natural state, and when your baseline frequency shifts, your life shifts with it. External manifestation becomes the inevitable reflection of internal coherence. As you move along this path, remember that becoming is not a performance. You are not trying to impress the universe. You are aligning with it. This process requires gentleness, consistency, and an unwavering devotion to the truth that you are not asking life to give you anything. You are allowing yourself to receive what has always been yours at a deeper level of being. Your new identity is not something you chase. It is something you step into, breath by breath, emotion by emotion, choice by choice. When you treat your evolution with reverence rather than urgency, you begin to notice that you are not building a new self. You are uncovering the self that has been waiting for permission to lead. And that self does not strive. That self does not grasp. That self simply embodies. With each moment of alignment, your future draws nearer, not as a distant dream, but as a natural extension of who you are becoming. This is the essence of adjusting your energetic identity. You do not create a new life. You become the person for whom that life is already aligned. When inner truth meets inner safety, manifestation stops being effort and starts being inevitability. And from that place, you do not ask if your vision will unfold. You already feel it living through you. There is an inner threshold where the familiar identities you once clung to begin to feel too small to contain who you are becoming. It is not that your old self was inadequate. It is that it fulfilled its role and now quietly steps aside as a greater expression of your essence emerges. The journey of adjusting your energetic identity is not about erasing who you were, but about refining the emotional frequency and psychological patterns that determine how you move through the world. In this chapter, we enter the realm where internal alignment begins to translate into visible shifts, where subtle changes in your thoughts, emotions, and energetic tone start to shape the reality that unfolds before you. Here, spiritual depth meets neurological precision, and transformation becomes less about hope and more about inevitability. Many believe manifestation requires constant visualization, relentless effort, or unshakable confidence. Yet the truth is far more nuanced. Real manifestation arises when your subconscious and conscious selves no longer argue about who you are allowed to become. Imagine a river meeting the sea. There is no struggle, only merging. The inner self and the future self converge into one coherent presence. That coherence is not loud or dramatic. It is steady. It is peaceful. It is the grounded clarity that comes when your nervous system releases its attachment to old emotional patterns and learns to trust expansion rather than brace against it. Some describe this state as certainty, others as faith, but at its core, it is a physiological and energetic shift into alignment with possibility. There may be moments when external life has not yet caught up with your inner transformation. You may find yourself living between two worlds: the physical circumstances you are moving beyond, and the energetic reality you already inhabit internally. This stage can feel like standing in a hallway between chapters. The door behind you is closing, but the door ahead has not fully opened. Doubt may rise here, whispering old stories about timing, worthiness, or capability. Yet this space is not a punishment. It is a sacred pause where your nervous system acclimates to your new identity. If manifestation arrived instantly every time you desired it, your internal foundation would not have the resilience to hold it. Expansion requires both readiness and capacity. Capacity is built through emotional regulation, inner presence, and the willingness to feel before trying to fix. When fear surfaces, you breathe instead of contracting. When uncertainty appears, you remain rather than retreat. In doing so, you signal to your body that the unknown is not a threat. You train your subconscious to participate in your expansion instead of resisting it. This is not merely spiritual alignment, it is neurological evolution. Your brain rewires as you demonstrate that growth is safe. Your nervous system stabilizes as you show that forward movement does not end in danger, but in deeper alignment with purpose. Spiritual neuroscience reveals what ancient wisdom has always taught. You do not manifest by demanding your future. You manifest by becoming emotionally available to receive it. There is power in stillness during this stage. Not stagnation, but intentional stillness. A stillness that listens, senses, and trusts. In this quiet space, you may notice subtle shifts in your desires and intentions. Some goals fall away, not because you failed them, but because you outgrew them. Some dreams become clearer, not because you forced clarity, but because confusion can no longer coexist with your rising self-awareness. Expansion often requires letting go not of people or circumstances, but of the outdated emotional signatures that once shaped your world. Release is a doorway. It is not loss. Every time you gently detach from what once defined you, you reclaim energy to fuel who you are becoming. As your energetic identity expands, you begin to feel a new internal rhythm. Decisions move from fear-driven urgency to intuitive precision. You no longer chase outcomes. You move as someone who knows that what aligns cannot be withheld. You speak differently, not louder, but truer. Your presence deepens. You find yourself drawn to environments that nourish your frequency rather than distract you from yourself. You notice synchronicities with increasing frequency, small signs that reflect your internal coherence. Life begins to meet you at the energetic altitude you now inhabit. Not all at once, but in waves that build momentum. There is a temptation at this stage to seek visible proof, to look outward for confirmation that your inner work is translating into form. Yet the greatest confirmation is the shift in your internal state. When anxiety loses its authority, when doubt no longer dictates your pace, when self-worth becomes anchored rather than conditional, manifestation has already begun. External evidence arrives in its own timing, calibrated to your ability to hold it with grace rather than desperation. You are not waiting, you are preparing. You are not hoping, you are aligning. Each moment of grounded self-presence is a signal sent into the fabric of reality, and reality responds in kind. Stepping into a new identity is not a moment, it is a devotion. You are choosing who you are with every breath, every internal whisper, every subtle decision to remain in alignment rather than collapse into habit. And as this choice becomes consistent, something extraordinary happens. Your life stops feeling like something you are chasing and becomes something you are orchestrating from within. Manifestation no longer feels miraculous, it feels natural. You do not question if your goals are possible. You feel the inevitability of their arrival because you already embody the frequency that calls them forth. You do not become deserving. You remember that you always were. There is a point in every transformation where effort gives way to remembrance, where striving dissolves and you realize the version of yourself you were chasing has always lived within you, waiting for permission to rise. In this journey, you did not force your reality to bend. You learned to soften the internal resistance that once made your dreams feel distant. You listened to the quiet intelligence of your body, the intuitive whispers of your spirit, and the subtle recalibration of your nervous system, learning that expansion is not danger, but destiny. You witnessed how identity is not constructed through intensity, but through devotion, presence, and consistent alignment with the truth of who you are becoming. As you have moved through each layer of this experience, you have felt the subtle shift from hoping to knowing, from yearning to allowing, from pushing to embodying. The life you desire is not a reward you earn for perfection. It is an energetic echo responding to the frequency you now hold. You no longer stand outside of your vision, looking in. You inhabit it from within, breathing at the pace of your expanding capacity, grounded in a sense of internal safety and certainty that cannot be shaken by circumstance. There will still be moments where old patterns flicker, but you now recognize them not as threats, but as remnants of who you once had to be. You respond with clarity instead of contraction. You choose presence instead of panic. You return to alignment not through force, but through remembering your truth. That is mastery. That is evolution. And from this place, manifestation becomes the natural consequence of coherence, not the outcome of struggle. You are not waiting for life to prove anything to you. Life is waiting to respond to the identity you now embody. The door is not ahead of you. You are already on the other side. Before this moment fades into the rhythm of your day, pause and feel the version of yourself you just met. The version who breathes differently, thinks differently, and moves with a quiet authority born not from ego, but from inner alignment. You have not simply learned, you have remembered. And now the question stands before you like a mirror. Who are you willing to be from this moment forward, when no one is watching, when doubt whispers, and when opportunity calls at your door? If this message has awakened something in you, I invite you to stay connected to this path. Subscribe to the channel so you do not walk this evolution alone, and continue watching the next video waiting on your screen. Your transformation is not a moment, it is a movement. Allow it to continue.